missionaries standing right there beside me. And usually they come, their mouth is horrible. These are actually very good looking teeth. But some that chew beetle nut, very ugly, very bad. And usually they come when I'm eating my dinner. But they're so appreciative. And the teeth come rolling out. This is how we go to villages. Our routine is that we treat people in our house 24/7. But 3 days a week, we go to another village. Whatever village we feel like going to, or we feel like God redirects our steps a lot of times. And we go. We have a rainbow bag of medicine and medical supplies. And me and him, we get on that bike and we go in all kinds of places, on all kinds of roads. But I hit the wrong button. Oh, let me just do that. Let me go up. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So this is how we go. And we get to the biggest house in the village. We spread out on the porch. And we open up all of our medical supplies. We have a bag for everybody. System, greens for the stomach, lavender for the skin, things like that. We check and treat the patient. And when we first get there, they all come. So that's a good time to pray and to talk a little bit about Jesus for the patient. And then treat the people. The children are adorable. And you can't resist. You have to love them. Here's the medical bag. Fletcher and I, we work like a team, right together. We're so used to working together. I break the syringes, he drops the vitamin D shot up, and I give the injection. And they love the vitamin D shot. And talk a little bit about Jesus for the patient. And then treat the people. The children are adorable. And anyway, the volume is not on this one. It's anyway, so we work like clockwork. If one patient gets a vitamin D shot, they all want it. And I better have brought a lot because they actually do get a little energy from that shot. And so, even though it hurts, they beg for it and they get it. And we have a lot of fun with the people. We laugh and talk and teach them about healthy Jesus. So if I didn't tell you about the bad roads where I live, I would not be very honest with you because right now it's been raining the last couple of years for 5 months, almost solid. And the roads will get deeper and deeper mud. And if it's a hard surface, it gets more and more slippery. And so the only way for us to travel when it rains is to get the motorbike and put the chain on the back wheel. Now, the bad thing is that these roads do not look steep. But these pictures I'm going to show you, they're very steep. And I hope you can hear the sound in this next one because I have to get off. It's really too bad for even him to come down it. But he doesn't realize he's making a noise. It's very scary. He says, oh no. I think the volume doesn't go up. It's not an easy road. This is a picture that Medjot sent me just the other day when he went into Deota by himself. He wrecked many times. There's this guy. Last year, rainy season, we have to ford what little streams become huge, and we need to cross all kinds of places to do this. I had to cross further up, and I fell in, and we were really cold all the way home, cold and wet. But this is the water right below our house, and when it comes right up to the bridge, and then, as it keeps raining and the water gets deeper, the side of the mountain falls down. So you have all these landslides, and to get across them is quite a chore. Sometimes we're riding along and things are good, we get to a hill, and I look down there and I go, I'll get off, I'll walk this one. But we're already committed, we're already partly over, and we just get out of control. We're in this rut, we're in that rut now. We just tumble over and we're all muddy. Now the next picture, these are professional dirt bike riders coming through this. I call it my personal driveway. It's 27 kilometers to the main road from our house. This is the first mountain. It took them 2 hours to get up the first mountain. On a dry day, it would take 3 or 4 minutes. It's rain, rain, rain. Very much fun. But even on a dry day, we can get into trouble. Sometimes, yeah, that's me. Sometimes we have to go places where bikes and people usually don't go. Anyway, John Wood was there last April, I believe it was, and we had a good road, so I want to show you a good road, because we spend hours on this motorbike, and a lot of the time it's fun, but a lot of the time not fun. But John Wood took this. You can see how it drops off on one side. Most every place is steep, and it falls off on one side, and there's a bank on the other side. When my boys first left Thailand, they were in Thailand for about 2 years, each of them. It was a good experience for them. But after they left, I had to drive. And it took me 7.5 hours to get back into Biota after 5 months of rain that year. And I got stuck 5 times. I censored 3 times, and I was so stressed I only had to throw up 3 times. And so finally, when we got back to Biota and I got that truck parked on a level place, not even at our house, but at the neighbor's house, I said to myself, I will never drive this truck again. And there it was. I'm too tired to go to my house. I lay down in DJ's house, which is the neighbor right by the church, and I sleep there. And I didn't tell the job that I don't want to drive anymore. But the next day, I had to take a patient to the hospital, and so I drive again. But after that, as the weeks went by, I taught my job to drive. He is the best driver, and does all the driving if it's not an emergency. And we sit in the front of that truck and we pray our way, because there's all kinds of road conditions. We're stuck, we're stuck, we're stuck. One day we're coming in with Bibles. It is after rainy season, but still there's threat of rain, and we have to go the long way because they're putting some cement and there's no detour on the short way. So we're just making our way into the ocean. We're about over a third of the way, not quite a half, when a great big loud clap of thunder to the left and sudden rain, downpour. Well, when it rains like that, we're in instant disaster. And we think, what should we do? Should we keep going or turn around? And we think, well, if we keep going, that is suicide for sure. We better turn around. So we turn around and we're going back, and we're doing pretty good. We've gone a long way, and we're at this, just coming off the last mountain where it's quite there, very steep. And there's red mud now. There's red mud, black mud, and white mud. And the white mud, not too slippery. Black mud, a little worse, and red mud is terrible. So there is red mud over the cement, and as soon as our truck hit that mud, we have to go downhill and turn right. But as soon as we hit that red mud, the truck went completely out of control, went into a skid, and when you go into a skid, the velocity speeds up, and that truck was flying sideways right to the cliff. It was the steepest cliff you ever want to see. We looked at it later, but that truck, I heard God say, Lord, help, help, help. And we went flying. We all knew we were going to go straight down to our death. And just as the back wheel hit the soft red dirt at the edge of that precipice, that truck stopped. And I think if we had gone around the back and checked, we might have seen the angel handprints on our truck. So I get very attached to the trucks that we drive out there because angels have touched them. It took us about 2 hours to get out of this mess by ourselves on the side of the mountain there. One little boy heard this story, and after faith camp in one of these places, I think it was Idaho, they had the children draw cards for us missionaries, and several people wrote to me. And one little boy said, and they had to put a Bible verse. One little boy drew my truck and drew it upside down at the bottom of a cliff and said, this is rain, this is mud, and this is you down there. And then he put the Bible verse, be thou faithful unto death, and I will give you a crown of life. I thought that was really sweet, because that's what God tells us to do, and that's what I endeavor to do by his grace alone. Psalm 56:13, for thou hast delivered my soul from death. Wilt thou not deliver my feet from falling, that I may walk before God in the light of the living? When the light of the world passes by, privileges appear in all hardships, order in confusion, the success and wisdom of God in that which has seemed to be a failure. Nothing in God's eyes is a failure when you're working for God. And Jesus' work was not a failure thing, that he could give us this work and give us success in the work too. We have wild elephants, and one day we're coming home. I'm actually I'm messaging my sister. I had service at the pagoda at the top of the mountain, but now we're coming down, and I'm telling her, we passed all the elephant places, so now we're safe. We're doing the shortcut into the ocean. So we're going down, and we meet this man, and we stop, and we talk, and he's just shaking. And we go, what's wrong? He said, well, you just passed two big elephants. I said, well, we didn't see them. We saw a couple of tree branches down, but we didn't see them. And so we said, well, good, thank you. And we kept going because we'd passed the elephant. But as we went around a couple of corners, we went around a blind corner, and we meet a wild elephant face to face. Well, now we're in trouble. We've got to back up, and Bledsoe is nervous, and he puts the truck in reverse, but he's in neutral. And so it's going, and it's not going anywhere. And then I'm looking, I said, oh, it's in neutral. And he gets it in reverse, and I'm watching the elephant, and we're backing up. But we hate to meet them on the bad road because you can't hardly do a 3-point, 4-point turn like that. And so very hard, you have to back up a long way and find somewhere to try to turn around. And I'm watching because the elephants will charge. And when their ears come out, they're going to charge. And they are angry, and you're intruding on their property. So we backed out, but we can't go too far because there's 2 more elephants up there. And so we stop, and we think, we'll wait this guy out, and maybe after a long time, it felt like a long time, we both crept around down there to see if that elephant was gone or at least out of the road and we could slip by per chance. But here's what we saw. We saw him. Do you see oil coming down the side? Watch. See? That on a male elephant, it is when they're in heat, that oil comes down, and it means that their testosterone level is 60 times higher than usual, and they're very dangerous. The encyclopedia said that they should be isolated during that time. But there's no isolation in the jungle. It's free range, and we used to count how many times we met a wild elephant, but we lost count now. We've met them so many times. We really struggled to get out of there for a long time to get past all those elephants. But finally we got out, and here we are. We're praising God because He's bigger than the elephants, and just like He closed the lion's mouth, what do we have to fear? He is our protector and guide. And here's that quote I said in the beginning, only the sense of God's presence can banish fear. And God is there. He is there all the time. We can't take our eyes off of Him for an instant, or we are not safe. This is a killer spider. I'm sorry to show you these things, but it's true. Bloodjaw just sent me this a week ago that he killed near our house. And we've had some experience with these. They do fight and kill, and they can jump. And so one time I was at the sink, and they like water, I think. And in the rag there was this spider, and he jumped up here and he ran off my arm. And that was the first time I saw one, and I killed it and showed it to Bloodjaw, and he said, "Oh, that'll kill you." I said, "Well, that's nice to know." And then later, I was taking a bath, and we don't have hot water, and we have a dipper bath. I'm taking a bath, and I feel something on my back. And back then, I had long hair, and I thought, "Oh, my hair just fell down." And I looked in the mirror, and there's that big black spider in the middle of my back, and you know, you can't really reach right there, but somehow I must have reached it and got rid of that spider. This is a pit viper. The green pit viper is really poisonous, and mostly the snake bites I see are from that because it's camouflaged in the green grass, and the people have to clear the side of the mountain every year to plant their rice. So that's snake bite. This is also poisonous. Green keelbat killed many of those. They want to come in the house. This is a cobra. I have no idea how many cobras I have tripped over. And I could tell you a lot of snake stories, but I don't have time. And this is a spitting cobra. They can spit 5 meters and get you right in the eye. And you have 2 minutes to live, if that. And others are chasing cobras. You can't get away as fast as you run. You will not get away from those. So you can tell that the Lord is our protector, and there's so many different things can get us in America too. But the Lord can overcome them all. The saddest thing, worse than all the killer spiders and snakes and elephants and muddy roads, are the people. Worse than that is people. Like I said this morning, we're in the biggest opium ring in Thailand. This is a guy mainlining opium right there in front of our eyes. It's too sad to really watch. About 70% of the people are addicted to opium, and maybe 35% mainline it 3 times a day. So they can't do anything constructive. They only work to get other jobs because they have enough money to buy more opium, and that's all they want to do. Very sad. I entreat the hearers of the gospel of Christ never to become discouraged, never to regard the most hardened sinner as beyond the reach of the grace of God. And that's what we have to think, because some people we just know, and they look like hopeless sinners, and there's no hope for them. But God made them in His image. And but for the grace of God, we'd be right there doing that too. Because that's how these people grew up. Now, we are in an area where they worship the devil. And so when they worship the devil is invited in all around us. And there are witch doctors and sorcerers and sacrifices and all kinds of ceremonies that I'm still learning about that happens out there. There's a certain pill people have out there in the jungle, easy access to, and I guess they make it. It's called Mad Horse Medicine. And Mad Horse Medicine makes a person extra strong. They can work like powerful all day long and not get tired. So they take that to do their work. But then a lot of times they drink alcohol with it, which multiplies the effect, so much so they can fry their brains. One young man in our village took too much with alcohol, and he ran out and tried to hang himself twice in the middle of the night in the jungle. But the two trees that he tried to hang himself on were young and they bent over. So he is still with us today. He is wanted by the police. Police come in at the opium season when they harvest their opium to process it, and they will shoot to kill if the people are in their opium gardens, or they just arrest them and take them to jail. And so, yet the people are very, very demon possessed at times with certain ones. All who would be soldiers of the cross of Christ must gird on the armor and prepare for conflict. They would not be intimidated by threats or terrified by dangers. They must be cautious in peril, yet firm and brave in facing the foe and doing battle for God. I want you to meet Tricot. Tricot is a Biota man. He just lives down the hill from us. He has two girls. He has almost killed his oldest daughter 2 times, and he hasn't done. Guns are illegal in Thailand, all over the country, but our people make their own, and they can be very deadly. Me too. One night, I was alone this night. He cut himself, and I needed to sew it up. So I had a chance to be there at night by myself with this man and sew up his cut. Now, people can threaten us. Wild animals can be terrible, but the threats of men will sink into insignificance beside the word of the living God. Be loyal and true, and the God who walked with the 3 Hebrew children in the fire furnace will be with you. So one night, he too went crazy, and he drank a lot of alcohol, and he became terribly, insanely angry. He screamed, and he fought all night long. All the village, including us, we're on the highest part of the village, but the whole village was up all night long trying to restrain this man because he had a problem with me. He thinks that I owe him money. I'm supposed to put money in his bank account. He would come up to our house at night and sit on the bench at midnight, and we would hear a voice, and there he would be. And when he gave Fletcher his bank account number so that I could put money in his account. And when I didn't, he got more and more upset at me. And he would tell people, she helps everybody, but she won't help me. And so one night at night, I see him walking past. The kitchen has a window open, and it's on at the sink. He's walking like this. I see his back going under the window, round around the house. He would walk. But this night he went totally ballistic, screaming. And now in our village, it's hard for the police to find us, and it's hard for us to even get enough phone service from the school next door to call the police. And then it will take them hours to find it because they never come, they don't know. But that night was a terrible night because if he could get away, what he would do to Bloodjaw and I would be indescribable. But Jesus says, fear not them which kill the body, but are able to kill the soul. Are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both the soul and the body in hell. So we don't have to fear what other people may threaten us with or do to us or anything, but we have to fear for ourselves. The fear is right here in our own heart that we might just let go of Jesus. And that is more scary than anything. This is the Baptist pastor. I used to run every day, but now I do a different exercise, but I run a lot to that village. Look at the Baptist church on the hill, and I think about this Baptist pastor because I pray for him that he will become a Seventh-day Adventist. Oftentimes, I get to treat him in the clinic. But he got very sick one time. He was overweight and looked terribly sick. And he came with us to a couple of villages to do a worship one time. But I thought, what's wrong? You look really bad. And he said, well, I have diabetes. And so next time he came into the clinic, we talked to him and we said, it's possible to reverse diabetes if you can stick to a healthful living style. And we'll be happy to tell you what that is if you want to do something about it. You can. Well, he did. And so I told him all about it. I bought him brown rice, no oil. I bought him a healthy salt and exercise and told him all about the diet, no meat. And guess what? People don't usually obey all that. He obeyed it. And he started exercising every day. And you see this man here, he is not overweight. In fact, when I took his picture, he's so thankful. His blood sugar went from 200 to 90. He is cured. He does not have diabetes anymore. He exercises for 2 hours every morning. But he has a brother, and his brother is quite opposite. This young man takes drugs. The main man finds opium. His name is Balto. Balto means yellow head in grandmother's speech. And apparently he was jaundiced when he was born, so his mother called him Balto, yellow head. Balto takes opium and mad horse medicine, and he's very accident prone. The next picture is kind of bloody. He was helping with a chainsaw one day, and it backfired. He sat and hit him in the head so hard that I thought he might have fractured his skull. So I took him to the hospital, and they x-rayed him. His skull was closed, but there's a lot of pieces of metal driven into his skull, and he had 16 stitches. Well, after that healed out. We cleaned it, got the stitches out. He's okay. His hair grew back. But then he's on the roof trying to help build a house on the roof. He fell off and he broke his ulna and radius on the left side. Both these bones he broke. And he went to the hospital. I wasn't there at the time. And they wanted him to go for surgery because it's dislocated. But they put a splint on there, but he decided, many people do this, I'm going to do it the devil way. Well, the devil way is nothing medical, but get the devil master to come and say a prayer every night, boil some leaves, take some tea off the leaves, get some boiled roots, put there. He unwraps his arms every night. I said, doesn't that hurt? Oh, yeah, it hurts a lot. So I said to him, that won't work. We serve a bigger God, way bigger than the devil. And I will try to buy some plaster in the city, and if you'll let me, I will put a cast on your arm. You have to leave it on for 6 weeks. So he agreed, and providentially, I would say I could get most anything in those pharmacies in Mesa, 3 hours away. And I came back with a plaster. I put that cast on his arm. He's looking really good right there, right now. However, later on, like just this summer, before I came to America, he had a terrible time taking mad horse medicine and drinking alcohol, and he went crazy. He hears voices in his head, and the voices in his head won't stop, and they tell him what to do or tell him what they're doing. They're chasing him to kill him. And so he's running like mad through the jungle, and he has a knife this long, and he has a gun, and he has more mad horse medicine. For a full week, he is running out of control through the jungle in every direction, thinking people are going to kill him, therefore he's going to kill anyone in his sight. And so people are scared to death on him, and they won't go to the rice garden to work, and they're staying in their house with their machete knife in hand. And so finally, after 7 days of running through the jungle, he came back. Now, what do people do when they have a hard time is they call us right away. Because whether they realize it or not, we have the Lord. So they think we can cure and calm and take care of any situation. So they call us, and we go. Well, this man, after 7 days, came home. And he is very dangerous. He went to his house. His wife was in there. And his sister came with some guys to our house, and said, we need you to come. We talked to him, and it's okay with him. It's just you two come very quietly, but don't upset him. But you can't make any noise. Be very calm, and he will listen to you. And so we have to go. It's 10 o'clock at night. We can't use a flashlight. And so we're walking up this rutted pathway to this guy's house in the next village. And as we're walking, we can't see. I don't see in the dark as well as Glenn people can see. And I'm thinking, if he comes after me, I cannot run away. He just has to kill me. That's just all there is to it. And so we're walking, and the plan is, well, there'll be some guys, all the village men are hiding in the bushes at the side of the pathway. And when we go in there and calm him down, the plan is that we will talk him into coming to the hospital with us because he needs medical care. He's all worn out and emaciated. And then, as we come out with him, they'll attack him, they'll grab him, they'll tie him up, and we'll take him to the police. So that was the plan. So we went in there. I took this picture. You can't really see him, but there's no way he should know that I took a picture of him. But as we're going up the ladder into his house, I'm thinking, and Bledjaw's thinking the same thing I found out later, I feel like I'm walking into a den of lions on my own free will. I'm just submitting myself to a den of lions. How is anybody going to contact my sister? And Bledjaw's thinking the same thing. Anyway, we went in there and we sat down there in front of him. We shook his hand, and we each read a Bible verse. And every now and again, he looked horrible. And every now and again, he would just look like that, and his eyes would just be bugging out, and you think, oh, in a minute, something could happen. Well, the wife had the gun and the knife, apparently. And we were there over an hour, quite a tense situation in the middle of the night in that man's house. And he would not go to the clinic. He will not be doing anything like that. One thing that gave me some hope is he had carried with him a Thai Bible in his clothes that whole time, and he took it out and he straightened out the pages. I'm thinking about the Gadarenes when Jesus went to Gadara, and those demoniacs came to greet him, but they were filled with legions of demons, but they still cast themselves at Jesus' feet, because inside, past all the demons, those men long to be with Jesus and long for healing. So I think here this young man, he's got a Bible and he's trying to straighten it. Very pitiful situation. We got out of here alive, of course. Those who enlist in the army of Christ are expected to do difficult work, to endure trials for Christ's sake, and they should now obtain an experience that will center their whole faith and hope and confidence in Christ. Then they will have nothing to fear when conflicts come that tear the soul asunder. They will have a refuge. Their energies may be taxed to the uttermost, but they will have the assurance of Christ. Lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the world. Only the sense of the presence of Christ can banish fear. He sensed his presence every day. I want you to meet Chapo. Chapo is a dear man, early 60s, that was a Catholic, but as we've talked about Jesus and he came to our church a few times, he decided that the seventh day was right. He felt the truth in what we were teaching him, and he was baptized. He got his name off the books of the Catholic Church. We don't really have churches out there in the jungle, but there's beliefs. And somehow the Catholic systems can really grab hold of people. And so he was baptized. He was the happiest man that I saw coming out of the water just after being baptized. In fact, after that, he invited us to his rice garden. Many times we're asked to go to people's rice garden to have a little worship. They have a little hut that they build in their garden to stay there while they take care of their garden. And Chapo had a very prolific rice garden. It was taller than my head and very heavy with branches, right ready to be harvested. So as we had worship with him that day, afterwards when we were walking all the way back home, he said to us, now I'm going to harvest my field, and 1/10 of it, the money that I get from 1/10 of my garden, I will be giving to God. And so we were just so happy that, it's so hard for people to come to that point that they want to pay tithe and they want to eat right and they're keeping the Sabbath. Those main things are something very hard to do. So we were so happy with that. Well, He would come to church. He would go to our prayer meetings. He and his wife were very faithful. We see him a lot, love him a lot. Well, one night, it was 9:15 at night. Ledjaw was going to sleep in the tent with two of his friends outside, and I was in the house. We were just going to bed when a motorbike with two guys came screaming, racing up the road. Now, after dark, when somebody comes at a fast pace like that, it's always something bad. So I run outside. He's already talking to Ledjaw. Somebody got stabbed and put his hand right here. Oh my, I think, oh dear. And so we get in the truck and we go. We got to go to Ouachita. It's only 2.5 kilometers away. So we go to Ouachita, and on the way, Ledjaw says to me, "It's Chapo." And I'm like, oh my. And so praying, don't really know what to think and make of it. We go to Chapo's house. They have a bamboo railing going across the little pathway that leads to the house to keep the cows out. And as we get to that railing, inside that railing we see a great pool of blood. And we went inside, more blood, and then realized, oh, he's dead. He has a huge knife wound here, exit wound. He went right there. And we found out later what happened is there's a man, very demon-possessed man, who has a death list of who he wants to kill. And Chapo was on the list. He had gone to that gate, and as Chapo heard somebody at the gate, he thought it was a cow, and he went out to check. He was going to go out and check the gate, but as he went to the front to his door to open it, these are just bamboo huts. Open that door, this man put a knife straight through his heart, out through there. And then he pulled the knife, took the man to the gate and pulled the knife out and ran away. And now, here we are, first responders on a murder, and the murderer is at large with a knife this long. And later we found out this man owns an AK-47. And so, as I stand there in the moonlight, I don't know if my heart stood still or if it raced, and I'm trying to make sense as I organize my thoughts, and I cannot. And the moon is half moon, and the wind is blowing the leaves in the trees, and these five guys, Ledjaw with the two guys from our house and those other two guys, they all picked up firewood, and they went to the house across the park. That was the murderer's house. Apparently they knew. And when this took place, the wife screamed so loud. Now all the people in their houses are very quiet, and they're scared, and they're sitting by the opening with no locks on the doors, with their machetes or with their hunting guns standing there. And so these people go with their fire sticks, and they go to that house, and they see bloody shoes at the door. And then I'm calling, just come back. Let's just go call the head man, because we don't need to be here any longer. And we get in the truck, we go back to the Ota, my village. We wake up the head man, go to the school, trying to call, and of course we don't have phone service or electricity. The school can sometimes. And so finally they get the police, and the police don't know where to come, and they work on that for hours, and then we go home. And we don't go to sleep. And so the plan is that when the police come, they will call Ledjaw, and a group of men will go with the police and hunt for the murderer. And so 2 o'clock in the morning, the police came. They came and got Ledjaw. And I stay and pray. Ledjaw goes, and here's Ledjaw's story. I wish he was here to tell you. They went, there's 2 groups. They divided into 2 groups, 1 police with each group, and they go off in 2 directions. They're looking for this guy. And they go for quite a long time, and finally, off in the bushes on the left, they see him. He's down there. Ledjaw's group found him. And so the police fire in the air. They tell him to come out and surrender, but he won't surrender. And so he goes deeper in the bushes. And then he runs to his house. So they all run to the house and surround the house. After a while, the police come in and they restrain the man and tie him up. And there he is, all tied up. And as soon as he's tied up, you know, a man has been murdered, right? And this is the murderer. So the nephew, the sons, the friends, the guys that are close to Chabot are furious. They want to kill this murderer. Somebody just hit them with a gun, the butt of a gun, as hard as they can. And then Leadjaw is right there, and a young man, big and tall and strong, has like a double-sized baseball bat of wood. He took that wood, and with all his strength, he hit that man in his head as hard as he could, and the man fell on the ground, and his head just whammed on the ground really hard. Leadjaw heard it. Leadjaw's right there. Everybody expected blood to be pouring out of his head, unconscious, maybe even dead, from such a blow. That man did not change his expression. Nothing was wrong with his head. He stood up with the very same expression on his face, unharmed. And we heard later that that man, 2 years before, had gotten a shot, a very rare, important shot. And that shot was from the devil, and it was supposed to keep a person from ever being injured or hurt. So figure that. Okay, so he gets taken off to jail. Right? In Thailand, in my country, the government cannot keep a murderer over 20 years in jail. In fact, if they have enough money, they can bail out in 4 years. So he went to jail. I didn't know it, but the custom of that country is that they have to come back and they have to do a reenactment of what happened right there at that house. Also, the custom of our people for deaths or for marriages or many different events, you stay all together with the family for 3 full days and 3 full nights. And so we're all there with the poor wife trying to console her and sympathize with her. And then they bring this man in to do a reenactment. Well, I look at him. He's got a helmet on. He's got a bulletproof vest on. And police and soldiers are all around him. And I wonder why there's all these police with guns. Why is he decked out like that? Well, I found out. So he is brought in. We're all around him. And goes to the house. He's reenacting what he did at the doorway to Chapo right there. Then, as soon as that is finished, and he did that, the police took him, turned him around, and at that moment, all the men in this crowd turned completely ballistic. They lost their temper. I have never been so close up to the anger of the devil as I was that day. It was so fierce. Those guys were shaking. Their faces were white, and they were running after this man. They were going to kill him. Leadjaw even stopped the guy from using his knife and stabbing him. And after that, we buried Chapo. We had Sabbath Service for Chapo. And we know all things work together for good for them that love the Lord. And this man is ready. So we will see this man. And so here's what we need to fear. Not the lions, not the snakes, not the spiders, not the maniacs, but fear lest self shall interpose between your soul and the great master worker. Fear lest self-will shall mar the high purpose that through you God desires to accomplish. Fear to trust to your own strength. Fear to trust to your own, or said it twice, to withdraw your hand from the hand of Christ and attempt to walk life's pathway without his abiding presence. So, only the sense of the presence of God can banish fear. I want to sense the presence of God every day. I don't know if I should continue. It's not even an hour by this clock, but 5:25. Okay, I will tell my one last story that's not quite so scary. I want you to meet Guadi. Guadi is 47 years old. He is an opium addict. He is like a hopeless sinner. He is loathsome. The people can't stand him. He's good for nothing. He just works to get the opium. He mainlines it. He smokes it. He does everything like that. He and his wife are very, very deep into opium and alcohol. And so I didn't know it, but when we visited his, somebody said, there is a guy up there that he's been laying there for a long time in his house. Oh, we said, well, we better go see him. So we went to his house, and here is Wadi. He is in excruciating pain in his lower back. And because of his opium addiction, we don't know, did he get in a fight? Did he fall down the stairs? What did he do exactly to cause that pain in his back? But he has not moved from that laying position except maybe his leg there for 6 months. So we feel really sorry for him. His house is a wreck. This is the middle of his house. That's his mother in the background. All his family uses opium except his wife's brother. His name is Haju, and he has joined our church. He and his family, they're the only wonderful Seventh-day Adventists in this whole village. But somehow the gospel is not penetrating this house. And now this guy, he lays useless and in extreme agony. So this is his house. I actually fell through the bamboo floor when I first went in there to visit him. My leg was so down through it. It's so rotten. All the needy who come to our notice are to be helped, but especially who are suffering for the truth's sake. If we neglect this work, what will happen? God will hold us accountable. We really have a lot of responsibility. We are soldiers and ambassadors for Jesus. So we talked him to go to the hospital. So they carried him out. We're so sorry he's had a rough ride all the way to the hospital. That's his brother-in-law, his Seventh-day Adventist. Load him into our truck. Well, when we get to the hospital, they don't let me in because COVID is going on. And so I wait. But when they come out, those poor patients, they don't know what the doctor said. They don't know what the diagnosis. They don't know what the medicine. They don't know anything. And so I decide, you know what? I'm going into that hospital. I'm going to find that doctor. I'm going to look at that x-ray, whatever it takes. So I just walked right in that hospital past all the people that are checking for COVID and looking at everybody coming in. I just walked in the back and there's several doctors' rooms, and I went in one right after another and asked for x-rays for this guy, Guadi. And finally I found the right doctor. And he showed me the x-ray on the x-ray machine. For some reason, I didn't highlight this one. This right here is narrowed. It's a compression fracture between L4 and 5. These are too close together. Here's another view of that compression fracture. He also has 3 slipped discs. So he's got a real messed up back, and he is in a lot of pain. So when I came out, I explained to the doctor, explained to the family what the doctor had said and what we need to do for Guadi. He needs surgery. But first, he's got to go to this hospital and that hospital. He's got to have an MRI. He's got to have more x-rays. He's got to go to a specialist in the big hospital. We spend 5 full days overtime taking him to different places. We have to take him all the way to Sukhothai, which is almost 4 hours away, to the MRI and back. So the good news is we had that long to talk to these people and to help them. And because of his position that he couldn't move, he didn't do opium. He was off of opium and alcohol because his wife wouldn't give him any of hers. And so, consequently, he just smoked. And so we are talking and helping him. And in just 2 months, he's looking a lot better. He is able to get up. He's on 4 different kinds of pain medicine, but he's able to get up and walk. And he walks people are really tough. They're very strong. And so you can see right here, it's an audio Bible we brought in. He's got it hanging right here by his head. And now his eyes are not dark and dull and hopeless. His eyes are bright. And so we talk to him so much about Jesus because before they can get off the bad habits, they need to know Jesus personally. And so I read this. He puts into your mind words that will replace. It's true. And so then as we go to the hospital the next time, he can sit up in the back of the truck and pray with us when we go. And here's just going to see the difference in this man and just that was just 1 month right there. Now, one of these trips, the last trip that we took, Leja asked the question in the back, and we were sitting in the front, in the truck, traveling the bad roads, and Leja says, "Who do you love the most in the whole world? Who do you love the most?" Well, the wife said the name of her daughter, her oldest daughter. And then Claudie said, "Myself. I love myself the most." And so then the next question is, "Well, who loves you the most?" And they thought they didn't have long. And they said, "Well, you have drawn me." And that is not equal. So Leja and I, "Well, why?" He said, "Because nobody helps us like that. Nobody has done anything for us, and you've done so much for us." And now he is working. He does not need surgery. He is working in the rice garden. He is determined and not quite finished smoking yet, but I think this takes time, and I think God understands that we have this relationship with them now. And I'm so thankful that God put me where I am, because I get to tell people about Jesus every day that don't know. And it's the most rewarding thing. And I want to just make you enthusiastic to reach the lost. You can look at them. They're all around. They're sad faces. Who knows their background? How cold our love, how feeble our interest when compared with the love and interest manifested by our Savior. Jesus gave himself to redeem our race, and yet how ready are we to excuse ourselves from giving all that we have for Jesus? There's no sense that we would be hesitant. Does it? No sense at all. If we have the interest that John Knox had when he pleaded before God for Scotland, we shall have success. He cried, "Give me Scotland, Lord, or I die." And when we take hold of the work and we wrestle with God, saying, "I must have souls out, I will never give up the struggle," we shall find that God will look upon our efforts with favor. And in closing, I just want to tell you about two people. In the year 1500, there was a man named Nicholas Ridley, and together with Hugh Latimer, they were turned at the stake in 1555 for protesting against the Eucharist, believing that the Catholics believed that it's the real body of Christ and the real blood in the communion service. And so that made the Catholic authorities very angry. And so they had these two men in prison, and they're waiting for their execution. Well, the night before the execution, Nicholas Ridley, one of his family members, came to him and said, I will spend the night with you tonight," just before he was going to be burned at the stake. And Nicholas Ridley said to the family member, "Well, I hope you don't, because I was hoping to get a good night's sleep tonight. I'm going to be burned at the stake the next day." And then Ridley said to Hugh Latimer, that day as they were going to be burned at the stake, "We shall this day light such a fire by God's grace in England that it shall never be put out." This is what we need to see today, because God is waiting, and in this judgment time, God needs to see a faithfulness in His people that was not seen since the apostolic time. So He wants to see such godliness in us. So I believe we have some rungs of the ladder to climb to get closer to what God wants us to be, because so soon He's going to come. We don't know are there any more time. We might not get to do a faith camp again or come back to America again, Israel and I. So I just want to see you there with all the people that God sends you to from here on to witness to and to let your light shine.
Praise the Lord, amen. You guys doing okay? Awesome. Do you have any questions for Gail or Israel before we move on to our next? Yes.
do, but we're kind of like last on the list. And so before rainy season, it will go through. Well, the first rain will wash, it just makes the dirt even softer and even worse when it rains, and then it just gets ruined again. But that picture that John Wood took was a real eventful occasion because just this summer, a roller truck, a bulldozer, and a front loader came to our village, and it took the rocks out. Our village and up to our house is the very worst place imaginable. And it took the rocks up to the river. It took the rocks out and smoothed it, and up just a little ways, like maybe half a mile. Anyway, that part is really beautiful. But now, of course, it's been raining since May, and so now it's already finished. So it's just time after time. And because we have a government school next door, they want to like put concrete on certain difficult places, coming from the east side. But the west side is always bad, and that's the side we travel.
Worse, that's almost worse.
Hard, it's even worse, because when that truck went out of control and went right up to the cliff like that, Rachel and I got out of the truck, and both of us immediately fell down, because it was just thicker than ice. You can hardly stand, and so we took our shoes off, and we're working to use the winch to pull ourselves kind of downhill. It made no sense, but we had to somehow do something to keep the truck from going over when we're trying to drive it out.
It's hard to get a sense of how steep it is there in videos, because you look at it, it's like, wow, that's really steep. You take a video or a picture of it, it's like, that looks flat. So this is the best picture I've found. I took this picture in March, and those trees, they look like they're growing sideways out of the mountain. They actually are. They're not straight up and down. They're growing sideways out of the mountain. But that's how steep it actually is. I don't have my kickstand there. I just laid the motorbike down like that on the side of the hill. So that's how steep it is, and you can imagine when that gets muddy, how difficult it is to get up, and then coming down that mountain in the truck. So they don't use the truck for like 3 months out of the year, 5 months out of the year.
Oh, I thought I was loud enough. Okay, we
have to determine, and
it's quite strategic when to take the truck out and just go to the motorbike, because we want to get supplies in. We won't be able to bring a lot of supplies in for 5 months. So I need enough medicine. We need, some kind of food, but usually the food goes moldy and rotten and the bugs get in there. But we have to take that truck out, park it out, and then we're just on the motorbike or we walk.
Yes.
I think it's a sad dichotomy that people like you guys go through what you go through day in and day out to serve the Lord. And so many people cannot find the fortitude to get into a car with 4 wheels on a dry, flat road and drive to church.
I know.
How sad is that?
I know. Unbelievable.
Yeah. So I have a question for you. Are you covering all of the mountains in Thailand now that you're there? All the mountains in Thailand now have representation?
There are 50 villages around my village, and I thought when I first went there that I would have 5 teams, and I would have a team strategically placed so that each team could reach 10 villages like I was, and then those 50 would be covered. But so far, it's still just Bleja and I. Some people have stayed for a little while, but they don't want to stay. And you can put your finger on any mountain all through there, and there's little Karen villages. They don't know anything. So send the people out.
Yes, so she's in the area right near Mesa, but there's 100 miles to the north and 100 miles to the south, in which there's pretty much no missionaries. And this is the sad state of affairs. And it's something that's going to come up in the judgment day. That here God has his church in one part of the world that has great light, great truth, great privileges, and we take it for granted. Where in other part of the world, there's almost nothing, and they're dying in the darkness. And this is something that we need to change. We need revival. We desperately need revival. Revival for mission. It's a matter of life and death. And so we're not just here to build up a ministry, we're here to save lives, actual saving lives. And we don't have much time. There's not much time left. But so start doing some soul searching and say, instead of saying, okay, how can I have a good life? Say, how can I invest what I have into the Lord's work? And not just the normal way, but say, Lord, what would you really have me do? And instead of saying, Lord, what can I do the minimum? Say, Lord, what can I do the maximum? What is the maximum that I can do? How can I be the most effective in the time that I have left with what I have right now? And if that means going and helping Gail, there's a lot of people that retire into Thailand. It's a great retirement place. It's a beautiful country. I'm shocked at how few people we have retiring into Thailand from our church. Because you can go and retire into a Thai village. You might be the only Christian in that entire village. And so you go from, church growth from like 1 to 2, that's 100% growth, right? What do you go from 0 to 1? That's infinite growth. Because 0, is an infinite number. So you can be the only Christian that somebody has ever seen. And there's many, many places like that. You might be the richest person there, yeah.
So I have a question, and these nice people haven't heard anything about it yet. But what is the new approach that we're taking to mission work?
Okay, so we started to get a little bit tired of this feeling of ineptitude, yeah, of driving through, village after village, city after city, not being able to make a difference. It's like we look at a city, here's a city, let's say for instance Sukhothai. It's in northern Thailand. There's a big plain that goes from Bangkok all the way up to the north. Then you get about 300 miles to the north and you're at 65 feet elevation. So super flat plain. And there was nobody, no Adventist presence, nobody, no missionary, no church, no plan to move into Sukhothai. And the central Thailand is the hardest people group to reach because they're very satisfied with what they have. They have Buddhism, they're pretty well off, they're getting by. They don't have a desire for anything else. And and I was looking at this, it's like, how in the world are we going to do this? It's okay, we got to come up with like $50,000 to set up some kind of like a clinic or a center of influence or English language thing, and it's like, who are we going to get to run it, and all these questions. And I'm like, but all those things never really worked before. The church has been in Thailand for over 100 years, and there's still 7,000 believers, and maybe 1,000 of those are actually Thai. The vast majority are minority tribes and stuff. So how in the world are we going to do this? And then we prayed about it. We realized, we don't know. But God knows. And what's amazing is that the Thai people are spiritual. They believe in the spirits. Okay, you cannot convince them that there are no spirits. Here in America, we have trouble convincing people that there's an unseen world, that there are spirits, there's angels and stuff like that. They think kind of cuckoo, But over there, they're okay with that. They know they're spirits. And in front of every house, there's a spirit house, where they go and they give offerings to the spirits every day, and they know if they don't do that, then the spirits are going to get angry at them and bring them a calamity. Broken leg, you can talk to this brother back there. He knows all about it. And so we started thinking, okay, well, what we're trying to do here, we're trying to plant a church, we're trying to bring people to heaven, right? Introduce people to Jesus Christ. Now, Jesus himself said the Father is a spirit. Okay, so we're trying to introduce a spirit to people that believe in spirits. But we're trying to, the Holy Spirit, absolutely. Angels, good angels, evil angels. They know about the evil angels. They don't know about the good spirits, the good angels. They don't know about the number one most powerful spirit in the world who coincidentally loves them and created them. Yes, and considers, and what? And died for them and considers them his children. So it's like, okay, we're trying to do a spiritual thing. Shouldn't we use spiritual tools? Mind blow. I mean, like, why are we so slow? And so, okay, what's the number one spiritual tool? Prayer. Yeah. Prayer gives God permission to do what he would like to do. Okay? I don't understand all the rules of engagement, but somehow humans on earth can pray and allow God to do what he would not be able to do otherwise. Okay? So, we go to, we give him permission, somehow. He's very respectful. Yeah, I love that about him. And it frustrates me. It's like, just do it. Yeah. But he's respectful. That's, and so, so we decided we will do some prayer walks in Sukhothai. Right? So we did prayer walks, and we claimed Joshua 1:3. You remember that? Oh, I said that in the other church this morning. Joshua 1:3. Wherever you plant the sole of your foot, that have I already given unto you. Okay, so we go walk through the city, planting the sole of our foot, claiming that promise, and claiming the fact that God has already given this city to us. Okay. Now what happens, I believe, is we pray and we ask God two things. To bind Satan, because Satan goes around and he blinds people's eyes to the truth. Okay? So we bind Satan and get him to stop doing that. There's this guy named Otto Koning. He's a missionary. He was a missionary in the 60s in Irian Jaya, which is like western Papua. Now it's eastern Indonesia. And he learned the authority of the Christian to resist the devil. Okay? And so he, you can look this up, Otto Koning. He's got like 15 sermons, and one of them is this, where he talks about resisting the devil, resisting Satan, where he was, he got a church full of people, and he was trying to preach to them, and they they couldn't hear him, they couldn't understand. It was all rowdy, and people were laughing and talking. A pig went through, and everybody was uproar and upset and everything, and then they settled down, and the pig went through the other way, and just wasn't working. So he goes into the jungle a little ways, and he says, Satan, I resist you in the name of Jesus Christ, because I have authority over you. I'm seated in heavenly places with Jesus Christ, and so therefore you have to obey me. He went back in, complete silence. Everybody could hear him, they understood him, and at the end, a bunch of people came up and took his hand and says, I want to walk with Jesus. I want to walk with Jesus. And so this is the authority that we have as Christians over the enemy. Okay? In Christ, absolutely. That's the only way. And so we do that, we walk through, and we believe that gives God permission to go in and start moving in ways that we don't see. Okay, so we did that a couple times, and we went to Virginia, and we shared the message of the need. And one family says, we would like to go. And so it took them about a year, but they sold their house, sold everything, and they took 5 of their 8 children. The other 3 were pretty grown up, and they moved to Sukhothai. So our plan was, you stay in Chiang Mai and learn the language for 6 months, and then you can move to Sukhothai. It wasn't God's plan. They moved to Chiang Mai, and they didn't do well. One of their sons was kind of asthmatic. He ended up in the hospital during most of that time. And so then they went down to Sukhothai just to visit to see what it was like. And while they were there, they found a perfect house, talked to the owner, rented it, like that afternoon. And so then they moved there in less than a month of having arrived in Thailand. So they came in weak. They didn't know the language, didn't know the culture. And so what happened is they found this house in a nice neighborhood, and they started connecting with their neighbors because they didn't know how to buy food. They didn't know how to survive. And so their neighbors came, hey, I can help you. And they take them to the shop and tell the shop owner, you take care of this person. So their need created bonds with their neighbors. Yeah, exactly. And so now what we're seeing, and we told them, your job when you go there is to connect with God. Okay? Don't focus on a ministry. Don't focus on something. Just connect with God. That is your primary job. Because a lot of times what happens is people go and they develop a ministry, and their whole focus is the ministry, and the God connection is kind of on the side. And so the spiritual thing kind of gets laid to the side. But we said, your focus is to stay connected with God. Stay focused on God and just follow what He says. Just lead, let Him lead. So it's not like an organization or a boss telling you, okay, you need to go set up a church plant. It's like them connecting with God, and if God says it, well, then it's God's responsibility. So it's not like a burden on them. It's not like an expectation upon them. And so this place has exploded. We have a friend that is spent like the last 15 years on a church plant in central Thailand, and he goes and looks at it and says, this thing is amazing. It takes my breath away. How fast this has grown, how powerful the ministry is. They got now 22 children from broken Thai backgrounds. And one of my favorite little testimonies is this little girl. This was just 2 weeks ago. One of their little girls was trying to go to sleep, and she says to Casey, Casey's the mother there in that family, she says, Mommy, pray. This little girl didn't know what prayer was 3 years before. Didn't know who Jesus was 3 years before. And she said, Mommy, pray. And so Casey prays, and she just relaxes, stress-free, goes right to sleep. And these are kids that are straight off the street. They were punching, cussing, fighting for survival, just terrible backgrounds. And now this is where they're at. And so it's a beautiful thing. And so that's why we did another prayer walk in another city just south of that, Nakhon Sawan. Did a prayer walk through there, and another couple moved there. So now, in a city of 130,000 people, we have 2 Adventists. Imagine what an amazing church service they have every Sabbath. Just him and his wife. Okay? Yeah. And then we prayed for another city up in the northeast, and we have another family that's planning to move there this fall. So this is, to us, the huge breakthrough, is let's not use human ideas, human methods, human plans. Let's put God back in charge and see what He does. Just see what He does. I don't know what His plan is. I don't know how to reach the Thai, honestly. I really don't. But God knows. So put Him back in charge, maybe He'll start opening up ways that we never thought of. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh, sure.